Once upon a time, many years ago, in a faraway land known as France, there was a king who died. He left behind his wife, the queen, and their baby son, the prince. 5 years later, the queen's kingdom was invaded by an evil king from a neighboring country. The queen was forced to lead her army into battle and to leave the prince, who was now 6 years old. So she called a fairy down from the middle region of the sky to look after him. Unfortunately, this fairy was, well, ugly, yes. The fairy was so ugly that flowers died when it looked at them, and every time the fairy went outside, it started to rain. However, it was very good at taking care of the prince. The prince was clever and quick, and soon learned all sorts of things about what the stars are made of, and where the weather comes from, and how things grow and why they die. And he was happy, more or less. The queen was gone for 10 long years. She finally returned on the prince's 16th birthday, victorious from the war, having vanquished the enemy and stuck all their heads on rusty poles. And that night, she threw a spectacular party to celebrate. There were great bowls of punch, and magnificent cakes, and beasts on a spit, and sculptures of ice, and flowers, and music, and dancing, and all manner of hanky-panky and jiggery-pokery. But at midnight, just when everyone was really starting to enjoy themselves, the fairy interrupted the party and announced its intention to marry the prince. Well, the queen laughed. "What a ridiculous idea," she said. "Look at how ugly you are, and look at how handsome my son is. How young!" And she laughed and laughed and laughed with her mouth wide open so you could see all the way to her tonsils. The guests laughed too. So did the waiters in their starched white aprons. You could even hear the food laughing if you listened very closely. The fairy was, understandably, very angry. Its rage rose. It hit the prince on the head with its wand. The prince's skin started to burn. He realized he was sprouting hair all over. He looked at his hands, but his hands had gone, and in their place were great black paws with long, sharp claws where his fingernails were. The prince saw himself in the mirror and cried out. He had been turned into a beast. The queen screamed and tried to stab herself with a pastry fork. The fairy turned the queen and all of the guests into stone, and the musicians into insects. It said to the prince, "When a girl comes to this house, who loves you even though you could kill her, who finds beauty in you though there is only ugliness to see, then, and only then, will the spell be broken." Then it laughed, for it knew this was impossible, and flew back up into the middle region of the sky, to the cold, dark part of space where the fairies live. And the prince, who was now a beast, was left alone in the palace. It was very quiet. It was very still. It was very lonely. The beast was waiting for a girl to come and break the spell, but no one ever came, until one night, someone did. Not a girl, but an old, tired man. Let us join him now as he stands in the shadows, weeping, for he is cold and lost. Beauty wanders the palace alone. Strange noises leak from the walls, and winds like hot breaths whistle from the window frames. It seems this palace has 1,000 rooms. some from which beautiful music drifts, only for her to open the door and find nothing but instruments covered in dust. Some that seem empty at first, until Beauty looks up and sees 100 birds flying about the ceiling. Some where snowflakes fall upwards from the floor, and some where stars shoot across the wallpaper, and some where monkeys swing from the curtains. In the gardens there are hedges that look like animals, whose shapes seem to change every time Beauty turns her back. When Beauty finally finds the room that is to be her prison, she finds no chains, no manacles, no bars at the windows, but a canopy bed, carpets your shoes might get lost in, and a great glass chandelier that scatters light like diamonds across the ceiling. Beauty sleeps, and when the sun wakes her, she finds there has appeared in the room a vast walnut-wood wardrobe full of dresses. Beauty has never seen such clothes. She dresses, putting on her stockings, her bloomers, her corset, her slip, her farthingale, her bodice, her skirt, her blouse, her shawl, her mittens, her sash, her ribbons, her slippers, and lastly, every night, as Beauty lies in bed, she listens to the breath of the beast as it echoes through the palace, like chords from a broken instrument. This sound, a sound that was so frightening to her on her first night in this bed, a sound that made her remember her father's words and run to the door to lock it. This sound only comforts her now, and the door is left unlocked. And soon, Beauty sleeps. And as she sleeps, she dreams. She dreams of laying her head in a woman's lap. Even though Beauty's eyes are closed and she cannot see the woman's face, she knows it is her mother, and that they are in a rose garden. The woman strokes Beauty's hair and hums a tune beneath her breath. Later, Beauty dreams of a handsome prince, with sad green eyes and arms which wrap around her and feel like home. They dance to the sound of an insect orchestra, and at the end of the waltz, the prince leans in to kiss her. Suddenly she smells only the foul, rotten breath of the beast, and Beauty awakens with a cry. But during the days, she does not remember her dreams, and soon, months have passed since father left. Spring has sprung and summer has come. The nights are short and the days are long, and Beauty, to her great surprise, is happy.
Beauty runs down the garden path, jumping over the chickens, across the muddy fields, trampling the carrot tops, and into the woods, so fast it is as if she is flying. Dark has already fallen, black wings brush at her face. The wolves watch her from the shadows, with yellow, blinking eyes. Brambles wrap themselves around her legs like snakes and try to trip her as she runs. When she stops to catch her breath, beetles scuttle across her feet, and she begins to run again. Finally, she arrives at the palace, but something has changed since she was last here. The roses are running wild. Black vines woven so tight she cannot get in. Beauty tears at the wood with her bare hands. The thorns rip her skin. At last, Beauty reaches the door and steps inside. The air is so cold here. Iced cobwebs hang from the ceiling and shatter into pieces at her touch, like the sound of a heart breaking. She pulls apart the creeping curtains of ivy that cover the dining room door and stops for a second, listening, suddenly afraid of what she will find inside. Let him not be dead, she thinks. Please let him not be